Welcome to Inspired Changemakers, a podcast about all the amazing things people are doing to make the world a better place. This podcast is about creating change in the moments that inspired our guests to activate. My name is Julia Healy, and I'm the CEO of United Charitable. Stay tuned to be inspired. All right, well, Rick, welcome to the podcast, Inspired Changemakers.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Absolutely. Here we get to talk to people that are really making a difference and really inspiring other people to make a difference. So with that, I'm going to do your bio.
Okay.
Rick Peck is an independent philanthropic advisor and founder of the Rick C. Peck Consulting LLC, where he works with nonprofit donors and professional advisors. He also leads the Philanthropy Guy, a leading-edge charitable giving resource hub featuring his bi-weekly Money to Give podcast, newsletter, and upcoming book. We're totally going to get into that today.
Yes, okay.
In addition, Rick is the founder and CEO of Give Trust, a platform helping nonprofits build transparency and trust with donors. He is a certified financial planner, a chartered advisor in philanthropy, with an MBA from Baker College and a BA from the University of Massachusetts.
That's right. UMass Lowell.
There we go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So where did you grow up? Like, I want to dig all the way back to, like, where did you grow up?
I grew up in Springfield, Massachusetts.
Okay.
And I was I'd say I was in a lower middle class family in a nice suburb of Springfield called 16 Acres, which is right next door to Wilbraham, which is a very nice place.
Okay.
So we literally could throw a stone and throw it into Wilbraham. And so it was very quiet. We lived at the end of this cul-de-sac, and I had two parents, my sister, younger brother, so three kids,
oh, wow.
Dogs and cats, all that kind of stuff.
So you
nice
had like
the suburb life for sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And but living in Springfield, you have sort of in 16 Acres, it has kind of a small town feel, but then you go downtown and now you're in the big city, and that's where I went to high school. So I saw. I went to classical high school, which is a pretty big high school.
Yeah.
Then I was the first graduate of a school called Springfield Central High School, 1987, that we were the first graduates. So classical high school and technical high school. There were 5 high schools in Springfield.
Oh, wow. It's big.
Yeah, it was a big city. It's the 3rd largest city in Massachusetts.
Oh, wow.
So classical and technical closed after almost 100 years, and then they merged into Springfield Central High School, which is like 2,000 students.
Oh, wow.
And they were already overcrowded immediately, like they didn't even build
Open
enough.
The gates, yeah.
But that was fun to be part of a school. Classical had a great reputation. I was into music. I was a drummer and a singer, and so I did that in high school. I tried wrestling, but it didn't last very long. It was exhausting. But it was great because when I finished classical and we moved into Central, now we were part of this amazing group. We were part of what was called the Jazz Rock Singers. I was the drummer to back up the Jazz Rock Singers. It was 12 singers, and we won state championships every single year I was in high school, 10th grade, 11th grade, and 12th grade, state championships in Massachusetts. And but anyway, to go into Central, we had state-of-the-art musical equipment. Everything was just brand new. We felt like we'd really arrived.
Right.
We felt like we kind of earned it, even if,
You didn't.
You always think, well, we're really trying hard. We're doing our best. And
yeah.
So I had 2 drum sets. I had one at home.
Yeah.
I had one at school. We wore tuxedos on stage when we performed. It was very classy and very well done. It was really a highlight of my high school career.
But then where did the service come from? Like, if we're going to start talking about your career and all of this fun stuff. So was there acts of philanthropy in there? Was there a service mindset? Yeah,
I would say definitely my parents. So we were involved in Foster Memorial Church, which is a congregational church, or United Church of Christ. So my parents were both deacons and served in various capacities. I think my father was a trustee at one point, and it was maybe 10 minutes from our house. Very, very accessible church, really nice people, lots of youth programs and scouting and you name it. Like, besides church, there was so much going on at the church, right, in the fellowship hall. And so I think that I just grew up with this sort of mentality of we're all in this together, we're helping each other out. And one story that actually stands out for me is my dad was laid off at one point, and that was a tough year. I was probably 1981, so I was like 12 years old. And so I was it's hard, when your father is the primary breadwinner. My mother really wasn't working at that time, so he was on unemployment. And the church came forward and they awarded a turkey, actually, a Thanksgiving turkey to one family, and they gave it to us. And I remember thinking, I'm both embarrassed that we got the turkey and proud and feel like, wow, they saw us and they recognized us and they empathized with our situation. And so I always feel like that was a moment in time for me of, this is, as small as that was, to give them a Thanksgiving turkey, it was still like symbolic of, we see each other, we help each other. And that was the other thing I noticed, that it wasn't really about money, even back then in church. I mean, I learned later, most people who are giving to the offering each week, they don't have much, but they're giving what they can, and they're giving a ton of their time too.
Right.
So it's just this sort of super positive, healthy ecosystem of not only helping people in the church, but also helping people outside of the church, having people kind of come in from different countries. You're helping them get started from starting a new life. And so you just see all of that, and I think that just kind of got into the fabric of me. And then we also had great friends around us who were always very generous. I remember, people probably always have this in their lives, but good friends of ours, we would spend a lot of time with them, the Bonacanis, and there were 3 kids, and we had 3 kids, and we just spent a lot of time together. I remember one of the things that just stuck out is we'd buy pizza, and when we buy pizza, or my parents would buy pizza, like Sylvia and Louie, our friends, they'd be like, no, we're buying the pizza. And so they would always fight in a sort of somewhat aggressive way, actually, over the check, but it was like it was like a fight of love.
Right.
We want to help. And I knew that they didn't have much money.
Either.
And then even Christmas time, they would host a Christmas Eve event, which was really cool because Santa Claus would show up at around, 7:00. And I was like, wow, this is really cool, sitting here giving presents to each of the kids on Christmas Eve. And I started to appreciate, especially as I got older, like there's a lot of coordination involved in this, and a lot of just genuine caring about people's welfare and giving the kids a really amazing experience and stuff like that. So I think I just grew up in an environment where people just seemed to genuinely care about each other. And I think as I got older, I just felt like it's in me too to do what I can to help out whatever way I can help out and be of service, and then it sort of evolved from there.
And so what was your first job out of college?
Out of college? Let's see. I think right out of college, I was a teaching assistant for a school in Arlington, Massachusetts, which was called the Jermaine Lawrence School. It was for emotionally disturbed adolescent girls.
Wow. So
I saw these were girls that a lot of them were coming from a psychiatric hospital trying to go to their home, and this was a halfway point. So sometimes the girls would be there for 2 hours, or not 2 hours, like a day or 2 days, and then some of them would be there for months. And so it was really hard. So I had them in a classroom atmosphere. They did not wear shoes. They didn't leave the premises, and some of them were quite troubled, and some of them didn't appear so. But I had to remind myself, there's some serious issues going on. Like a girl would push a boy through a window or something like that, but she's an A student. There's kind of this. She's a model student in the classroom, but there was obviously
something.
Yeah, others just are dealing with really tough home lives, and you have 12 girls usually roughly in the atmosphere in this particular environment. So we would have a classroom environment, and then all of a sudden one of the girls would act out, and we'd take them out of the classroom, or we'd have to basically stop class at that point because something was happening. And there were only 2 guys working there. I was one of them, and another guy. He was more of like an overnight helper, and he'd monitor the girls while they were sleeping and such. And I was a day worker where I just came in and did. But we had to learn how to do physical restraints on girls in certain situations. And probably one of the worst moments I had there was one of the girls escaped, left the house, started running through the streets of Arlington, and I'm chasing her, and I was like, this seems very odd.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure people watching this are thinking, what the heck is going on right now? Anyway, she sort of got sad, gave up, and we walked back together. I didn't have to do anything. But then I just thought, I don't know if I can do this much longer. Right. This is really hard work.
Yeah.
But it gave me an appreciation for how tough it was emotionally for all parties.
Right.
And how empathic everyone there was at, Jermaine Lawrence. I mean, these people were so highly trained, so empathic, so in tune, working with very fragile situations. And anyway, I still remember those experiences to this day. It could be as simple as we're all having lunch together and it was fine, or I was sitting in a room with a girl while she has a timeout.
So then how did that lead to really starting your own consulting company to really help donors, nonprofits, and professional advisors thrive?
Well, there's a few steps in between. I'd say I wanted to be a teacher out of school. I was an English major. I started out as a biotechnology major. And then in my third year, I changed from biotechnology to English with a concentration in writing. But then I thought, okay, well, when I get out, I'm going to be a teacher. So I was in the Boston area, and that's when I got the job at Jermaine Lawrence.
Yeah.
So then I ended up sort of leaving the area. My future wife and we ended up going to Vermont. And when I was in Vermont, she had a friend who said, you know what you should do, Rick? See if Jackie, her friend, could get you a job at Progressive Insurance.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, well, I need a job, and why not? And it was a decent job at that time. It was long before anyone knew who Progressive Insurance was. So I was working on claims. So very different from Jermaine Lawrence. Now I'm just processing accidents that are coming in the door. So I did that for a few years, learned a lot about basically customer service, really, really excellent customer service and cost control. But then I was like, I don't know if I want to do this forever. So then I said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to become a stockbroker. I'm going to get my Series 7 license, my 63, my 65, my life accident and health. If I can pass those tests, I'm going to go become a financial advisor. Yeah. And then I did. So I gave my notice to Progressive. This is like August or so of 98. Yeah. Then I started becoming a personal financial advisor, working with people with retirement planning, education planning, insurance, and so on. And I did that for about 7 years. And it was fine. But then my wife was working at Dartmouth College. She's a dietitian at Dartmouth College. At that time, we were in Hanover, New Hampshire, Lebanon, New Hampshire area. And she says to me, hey, why don't you see if there's anything here at Dartmouth that would be of interest to you? And I said, I don't know what I'm going to do at Dartmouth. I mean, I'm a financial advisor, so what would Dartmouth have to offer me? But we did end up finding this position. It said Associate Director of Gift Planning. And I said, well, that's an interesting translation of my skill set. I can talk about bequest intentions, charitable gift annuities, charitable remainder trusts, real estate gifts, donor advice funds. It was estate planning, not something I was really doing a lot of. So I said, you know what, I'm going to just make the jump here and try. And I interviewed and I got in. They didn't normally at Dartmouth hire financial advisors. They would normally hire JDs and attorneys. Yeah. So I said, well, I'm in. I'm going to give it a try. And it was a really good fit. I felt like I was at a world-class institution, raising money in all the right ways. I was in the plan giving department, which was, I've learned later that most nonprofits don't have a plan giving office. They don't even have one person. And I was with 10 people. There were 10 in our plan giving office. Luxury, Yeah, and I went around the country. I just visited with people, just got to know Dartmouth alums, talked to them about charitable giving and bequest intentions, and it was a really light conversation. But I got to meet some super interesting people. Imagine, yeah, it was. I wasn't on commission anymore, which took kind of the pressure off. My kids were 7 and 5 at the time. Yeah. And so I got to go home and have dinner with my kids and see them go to bed, where normally I was working until 9 o'clock every night. Yep. So then it evolved into, I became director of gift planning at the medical school at Dartmouth. I became director of gift planning at Dartmouth Hitchcock Medical Center, which was right down the road. I was director of gift planning for 2 different 501c3s at the same time, just by design. Then I started to move into major gifts, which were $50,000 or more outright gifts to either the medical school or the hospital. Then I moved into $1 million gifts, which were to the hospital or the medical school, and held on to the plan giving piece the whole time. And then I had people reporting to me. But then in 2017, I said, I love this job. I love everybody here. But I saw this position called VP for Development and Philanthropy Services at the New Hampshire Charitable Foundation. And I said, that seems like a good job, because you get to work with people not just who are interested in academia or healthcare, but if they're interested in the environment or homelessness or food scarcity or what have you. I still get to work with professional advisors and try to maybe solicit them for potential referrals, like CPAs, wealth advisors, trust and estates attorneys. And then I ended up working also with, just generally speaking, just continuing to work with, all kinds of constituents, and had a whole staff of people who reported into me. Then in May of 2023, I decided to go solo and do Richard C. Peck Consulting and the Philanthropy Guy as my educational arm. And so now I'm working with nonprofits who are trying to raise money, working with donors who are trying to give away money, and professional advisors who are trying to talk about charitable giving. So I feel like I've been very fortunate that I have this strong financial background, a really strong background in academia, healthcare, community foundations, and now I get to work at my own speed with all the different people that I meet and just get into the ecosystem, all of the, just kind of taking in everything that's happening around me philanthropically, trying to translate it into results for other people or conversations that can be part of just what we generally need from each other, I think, is just to keep each other up to date and educated and build on each other's strengths.
And that's funny because we both kind of have a little bit of a similar journey, is that we both started as we were in the financial advising industry at one time.
Yeah.
So that was my first job out of college. I did it for about 3 years before I went into the nonprofit space. And it gave me such a different perspective of philanthropy, because cash wasn't, even for United Charitable, you know what I mean? Like, we love cash, not that we don't love our donor advised funds, but like all other sorts of planned giving and charitable vehicles, and what is the ecosystem of what does a family want to create change.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a good point, right? I mean, what doesn't change, I think, in the work from being a financial advisor or working with donors is you're really listening to what is important to them. If you're a good advisor, you're really listening. You're not leading with, here's the solution. You're saying, what do you want to accomplish? What's important to you? And then you think to yourself, okay, strategically, I'm learning what they're trying to do, and I'm trying to draw that out of them. And then tactically, we'll figure out which vehicles to use, which are the right things to use in this particular situation. Like, we'll get there, instead of leading with this. Right. So I think that frame and that structure has always worked well, because then people are like, you're listening to me, you heard me, and you are fulfilling what I'm looking for, even if I didn't even know in the beginning exactly what I was looking for. You heard me enough to know how to translate that into the right portfolio, the right product, whatever the case may be, the right savings plan, the right giving plan. They're like, I'm in good hands. It's going to be okay.
I'd like to thank United Charitable for sponsoring today's Inspired Changemakers podcast. United Charitable is a national nonprofit that focuses on guiding you on your charitable journey. Whether you like to simply streamline your giving or you like to create your own charitable initiative, United Charitable has the knowledge and resources to support you. If you'd like to learn more, check out the link in our bio. And so, what is the common theme that you think that you deal with education-wise that you really talk a lot about? Do you have a common theme you talk a lot about?
Yes. With nonprofits, I'll say I start with the case for support. I never thought I would spend so much time on the case for support, but I used to think I would go out and talk more helpfully on the tactical side, just like do these things. But most of the time I'd go back to the nonprofit and say, I'm not really even sure what you're trying to accomplish. I'm not even sure that you know exactly what you're trying to accomplish. So, what's your mission? What's your vision? What are your core values as an institution? Where have you been? Where are you today? And importantly, where do you want to go? What are the challenges you see? What are the solutions you're proposing? How much money are you looking for? Like, break it down. Don't make the donor work too hard. They should be able to read that and get it.
We tell our fiscally sponsored programs all the time, you need to tell people what you need.
Yeah.
You very frankly, and a lot of them want to say all the good things that they're accomplishing, which is great. We want impact, but they also need to know what you're struggling with and how they can help you get out of the struggle, or how you guys can struggle together to work through to create change. But yeah, that is such a common thing.
Yeah. I'm always shocked. I mean, even as of yesterday, I was talking to someone and I go, do you have a strategic plan at your nonprofit? They go, no, we're kind of working on it. And I said, how much money are you raising? And they said, about $5,000. And I said, well, and then he said, well, we want to go into a campaign. And I was like, boy, there's a lot you need to be working on here. The other thing I talk about is non-cash assets. You and I were talking about that a little bit earlier, but I always bring that up and say, real estate, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, tangible personal property, life insurance, cryptocurrency. These are all things that you should be advertising, charitable gift annuities, charitable remainder trusts, not just cash, because most people don't have a lot of money in cash, but they have a lot of money in these other assets, but you as a nonprofit are not asking for those things.
And it's so funny because now on the other side of our business is the donor advised fund business, and we work with 550 families that are really trying to create change in the way that they want to see change happen. And when they're looking at 990s and they're looking at all these things, they want to make sure that these nonprofits that they're giving to are sustainable.
Yeah.
So that endowment, which they want to see it. They want to see that if they have one bad year, that all the money, if they're going to give them $50,000, that we're not going to go up in smoke. The average lifespan of a nonprofit is what, 3 to 5 years or something like that?
Yeah, it's horrible.
It's horrible. And so like the donors are really looking for nonprofits to have that sustainability plan.
Yeah.
To have, or strategic. I'm very into sustainability planning. I know it's a little different than
it's the same idea
though.
Yeah, it's the same idea.
And our donors are really looking for that and want a plan of action and want to know that their money is going to be reaching a greater cause, and this is not just going to go away in 3 years. They want to feel part of the solution.
Right.
And then, so what do you think donors are looking for? Or what is the messages you're giving to donors?
So donors, I've come up with sort of a flow chart of sorts that I say, let's start with kind of same thing, strategy and tactics. So I say, okay, what are your values? What do you care about?
Right.
Let's narrow it down to, say, 3 values that each of you care about. If it's a married couple, I actually have them each do it.
Yeah.
And then
are they always the same? Because I could see me and my husband's values being a little off.
There's usually 1 or 2 things that are
similar,
synergistic. Yeah. One older couple, they had a lot of things actually that made sense to me. They've been married for a long time.
Yeah, that's true.
Similar values, but and actually they were funny. They were like, we were surprised that there weren't more values that we were in sync with. There's only 3. I was like, well, you've been married for 50 years. That's pretty good. Well,
just on a joke with that. So before my husband and I got married, he would give a lot to like any kind of veterans organization and military, and I would give a lot to like the women's organizations or anything that's like women related or like, and now that he has 2 daughters, he's coming more on my side, right? Like what programs can we give to really enhance like girls going into the science and all the other things. So I think it's incredibly funny to see, you're right. Like as we grow, we've been together 20 years now, like as we grow together, those values of like how we want to be known and stuff like that does kind of move.
Yeah, it's very profound. I find that reflective exercise, especially, I don't care what age they're at, they're just like, wow.
Yeah.
That's really deep.
Yeah.
And then I talk about their issue areas. What do you care about as far as the things that you want to make an impact on,
right.
and give them permission to narrow it down. I said, you may want to give to everybody, but maybe you should be focusing on 3 issue areas or 2 or 1.
Do you see that with your donors too? Because our donors at times, they don't want to, it's not that they don't want to be judged, but there is always going to be a trend of where people are giving in a current environment, depending on what's going on around us, right?
Yeah.
And if you're not giving to that org, it doesn't mean you need to be embarrassed about that, right? Like there's a light that is put inside of you that tells you what you need to fight and what you need to change and what you need. And it's good to honor that. You don't need to be on trend with philanthropy.
You don't, I look at it this way. I say it to people like this. You're going to choose this path. And with $600 billion being donated, chances are somebody's going to be choosing a different path that isn't as important to you, but it's very important to them. So between all of you, if everyone's doing this, chances are all the nonprofits are going to get what they need in a perfect world, and all the donors are going to be giving to the areas that are most important to them, and everyone's going to win.
Can we just go back to that again? Philanthropy is how much of an industry? You gave a number there.
$600 billion. It was $592 billion donated in the United States just last year, according to Giving USA 2025.
And to think that we don't have more strategy around family giving blows my mind when it is such a big industry.
Yeah. I'm disappointed generally.
Yeah.
When I think about 2 years ago, it was around $499 billion, I think was the number. Then it was 557, then it was 592. So literally by $100 billion, it's grown in 2 years. And I always sort of joke, I say, you should have a philanthropic advisor on every street corner.
You should.
With that kind of money.
Yeah.
If it's heading toward $1 trillion, I'm just shocked that it's not more part of the discussion.
And that's what we actually were talking about when I was speaking to financial advisors earlier in the week, is that there's not a ton of education right? And financial advisors, CPAs, wealth professionals are like the number 2 resources that people go to after their spouse of like, how do I give? Where do I give? How should we think about giving? What are my options for giving? And if financial advisors are not intact with this information, they're like, hey, go give 10 grand to your church. You're great. You know, like when there is strategy that could go behind it with the right resources and the right partners.
Right.
Yeah.
It's deep. I mean, I think that what people are missing, you know, for example, as a financial advisor, you'd say to people, you know, what age do you want to retire at? And what do you want to do in retirement? I think another level is, besides playing golf and going on vacation and so on, you probably want to have a little bit of deeper meaning in your third act. What would that look like? Maybe you want to volunteer. Maybe you want to give money away. Maybe you want to be a connector for other people. Maybe you want to be a board member or, you know, a committee member. Maybe you, whatever it is, that's the deeper level of meaning. And I think these conversations, they get to that. They say, and they're not mutually exclusive. It doesn't mean that the financial advisor, whoever it is, isn't going to be able to work substantively, financially with this client. In fact, they may find that it's even more of an emotional bond that they're getting with that client, because back to what we were saying before, you really get to know people.
Right.
Then you can serve them better. And if you're a good tactician as it relates to what type of giving vehicle do I use, or what type of financial vehicle do I use, and how do we deploy money, like you'll get to that. We'll get there. But you have to start with, well, what is it that you actually want? And if people aren't, if they don't really know and no one's really sat down to ask them, if they're just being told all the time, retirement looks like this. You should feel this way when you get to, you know, and people are like, actually, I don't. I may even actually want to go back to work. Is that okay that I go back to work? Or maybe I don't know I'm going back to work because I don't know what else to do because no one's talked to me about the other options.
Well, and I think that goes back to another point that we talk about often too, is that, you know, we have, and you probably have seen this a million times over, you have like, you know, the founder of the donor advised fund or whatever charitable that knows where they want to give. And now it's the next generation that's going to be taking over the private foundation, the donor advised fund, the whatever. And they're like, oh, but the next generation doesn't really have like the same values or doesn't have really the main mindset. Well, if you use these vehicles actively and talked about them and use your donor advised funds in pairing with site visits to nonprofits, in pairing with family summits where you make your children go research what, you know, give them $5,000 to give away and make them go research what nonprofits, let them see needs in different cities. Like there's so many different things that absolutely can be done. To really make sure that that fabric of philanthropy and that real passion to make sure that you make a difference and that you care about the values and all this, all these charitable vehicles are out there for you to use. Yeah,
I think what you're talking about is making space for the conversation, either first generation, second generation together, which thankfully I've had those and I'm having those right now. And I'm talking about adult kids in their 60s
same.
and parents in their late 80s, as well as parents in their late 50s and young. But I think it's instead of judging the kids and saying, well, they don't know, say, how do you know that?
Right.
I don't think you even had a conversation with them. It might be quite insightful to you as the parent or the grandparent to listen to the kid or the grandkid say, actually, I'm really thankful for what my parents and my grandparents have given me. I appreciate their generosity. I actually have my own ideas of what generosity looks like, and it looks like this. And I tell you right now, I know for a fact these grandparents, they're sort of aching for that. They're making these judgments from afar. But when I bring up the idea, like you just said, a simple idea of why don't we just give them your required minimum distributions and let them go make a contribution to their favorite charity, you know, and I'm talking like at $100,000 level, the grandparents are like, yeah, I'm all in, let's do it.
Can I tell you the most fantastic story that I have on this? And I don't know if I've shared with you this, but we have a client who was talking to their grandkids that were in high school. And so they were just hearing the fact that they were going to do a trip. Like the high school was trying to raise enough money to go to Normandy, to World War II, like to do the whole thing, to play music. And it was all around music and all this stuff. Wow. And their grandkids were just talking like, you know, hey, it'd be really cool if you could send money. So like, are the kids that can't afford to send themselves, you know, at our high school. And just them having the mindset, because it's what you talked about, it's how you grew up. Unless you are aware and you listen to the things that other people need, right?
Yeah.
And then you make the connection of like, I know somebody that could help with that.
Yeah.
Now, she got some of her high school kid, her high school kids, to be able to go to play music on Normandy for the celebration and but you have to have your eyes open, and you have to have that space, as you say, for conversation.
Yeah.
Or all the connections won't happen.
Right. You have to, I think you just have to be a good dot connector. You say, well, there's these people with these talents, but they don't have any money.
Yeah.
And these people have money, but they don't have that particular talent.
Correct.
And there's this opportunity here. Why don't we bring them together and make it happen? And I think all parties are happy. I mean, back to donors, sometimes they're just like, hey, we just want to make the best impact we can make.
Yeah.
We don't know what the opportunities are.
Right.
Show us what we should be thinking about. And then many times the donors will say, thank you. Thank you for bringing that opportunity to me. It made me feel happy and fulfilled to know this was out there. I would not have known about it otherwise. Thank you for bringing it to me. And of course, the people who are benefiting are saying, thank you for the money, thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah.
And it changed their lives. I mean, that's magic. I think that's really what drives me in the world of philanthropy. It's kind of the magic that happens when you're able to connect the right people together who have these talents or these financial resources, and then the impact that's actually being made, that they can go back and talk about that and say, these are real lives with real differences, and we can do this. These are things we can do together. We have the capacity to do this. What else is out there that we might be able to be part of?
I would like to thank Athletes Charitable for sponsoring today's Inspired Changemakers podcast. Athletes Charitable offers a concierge membership service that provides the tools and resources to build a legacy through service. Our athlete-led team has the first-hand experience and expertise to provide hands-on support that simplifies the entire process for athletes and entertainers to reach their social entrepreneurship goals and create lasting impact in their communities. To learn more, check out the link in the bio.
And I think it's so important, and it goes back to, if the school wasn't telling people what they needed, if somebody wasn't listening to what they needed, right, and connecting the dots, it all started with the school telling people what they need.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important for nonprofits to tell their donors and the world what they want, what they need, and where they want to go, and how this is going to get them there.
Yeah, it's an informed place. That's the way I start with a lot of the nonprofits. I say, you are the experts in that particular. You wouldn't have chosen this particular nonprofit focus if you weren't experts or you didn't see it. So educate the potential donors. Like, let them know you're on top of it. You get it. And even better, if you can say, not only are we on top of this particular subject matter and we need financial help, or we need somebody to help us with volunteerism, whatever, we also work with these community partners. These are other nonprofits that are symbiotically working on the same topic area that we are. And then I say, counterintuitively to these nonprofits, I say, maybe the donor is going to come along and give to all of you. Imagine that.
Could you imagine?
Can you? And they go, no. I mean, yes, the donor wants to come in and make a difference and an impact collectively. They're not trying to choose between their favorite kids. They want to fund all of you.
So can I tell you, I just maybe a month ago, AJ Brown, who has a fiscally sponsored program with United Charitable, did an event in Philadelphia where he partnered with another nonprofit that gives haircuts to inner city kids that go back to school. Then he partnered with another nonprofit that does after school program called e-gaming, and they do like video game challenges for kids to keep them off the streets and the city. I mean, he has funding from the Department of Justice. Like he has real funding.
Wow.
And to see all of these entities and their sponsors show up, Chicky and Pete's, which if you're not from Philly, you probably don't know what that is, but it's important. All of these people really show up. Sharpie, like, to help these kids that were going back to school, that needed haircuts, needed an after school program, needed a place to go. And you walk in that room, and the energy and the belief you have that change can happen when, like, forces combined, it's incredible the energy that you get out of that. And just, again, it's like more people rolling together, you get up there faster. And I agree with you, the collaborative way to create change is incredibly important, especially nowadays.
Right. It's really magical. Like you said, when you go in there and you just go, these kids, going back to feeling seen, like they see me, like people care about my welfare. They care about where I'm going. And that will stay with them for the rest of their lives. They're going to go back at one point and say, I remember people helped me.
Right.
And they didn't have to.
Right.
They were not obligated to
Right.
give me, but they did. They felt like there was something about me and what I was doing,
Like the
and
turkey.
or us. Yeah, it's the turkey. It's like they saw me at a time where I needed some support. Maybe I didn't even understand how much support I needed.
Right.
Or I wasn't really sure where I was going, but they saw how to help guide me there.
Yeah.
And so it's that kind of, it takes a village idea, but if people have been in that village environment and they see that there's so many components to someone's success, and these people out of the goodness of their hearts are helping, and they care, they genuinely care about the welfare of other people. I mean, that, to me, I think that's what drives me. It's like, it's just helping humanity do what it can do if it has the right resources and the right opportunities ahead of it. Amazing things can happen if there's that drive.
And I think people a lot of the times think they're not enough, or think they're not like a philanthropist. No. The definition, like if you give like $50 at the Petco checkout for the foundation, like you're a philanthropist, right? Like if you give in any way. And I think people think that they're not enough. So to work with you, would you need millions of dollars to get started? Like when is the right time to talk to a philanthropic service advisor?
I really believe as soon as possible, you're capturing that. I'm talking about like a 3-year-old.
Yeah.
Just sit down with the 3-year-old, and because the 3-year-old is also observing things. That's one thing I've learned along the way. The 3-year-old noticed that someone's sleeping on the sidewalk. Why is that person sleeping on the sidewalk? Mommy, don't they have a home? No, they don't. That type of a thing. And then you just kind of grow with that and say, well, what can we do about that? So I think if you start too late, and this is regardless of money.
Yeah.
If you start too late, somebody could have millions of dollars, billions of dollars. And if they are not philanthropically inclined, it doesn't matter.
It's the serviced mindset that is so incredibly important. And about 2 years ago, I took my daughters to, so Charlie Batch, Best of the Batch, he was a quarterback for the Steelers. He does an amazing programming. What he does, he's built a facility in Pittsburgh, like it's insane. And basically, I took them to wrap gifts. So he has over 40,000 gifts that are donated.
Wow.
That he asks family for 3 days to come in and wrap. And he hosts the family, and everybody wraps gifts. My daughters were like, well, why are we giving towels and pots and pans and
functional things.
Like, and it was really eye-opening for them to understand that not everybody has what they have. And you're right, opening their eyes to just seeing that there is need out there. And now the things they come back with, Rick, the things they come back with that they want to support are not necessarily my things, but I have to honor them in their way because I want them to have that service mindset.
Yeah.
So we have to give $25 a month to a pig farm that takes pigs that families got them as like potbelly pigs, but then they grow.
Okay.
And they can't house them anymore, and they don't want to go to slaughter.
Okay.
And this is my daughter's, and we have to go feed them on a monthly basis. Like, it's her thing.
I see. So they can live good lives and never be turned into bacon.
Correct. And it's my daughter. It's not my cause, but it's what she feels very passionate about. We had our birthday party there, so we had to bring all other, you know what I mean, or like all the things. And so, it's just really important that you honor the other people's philanthropic intentions.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, because I also feel like philanthropy is an evolution.
Right.
It's that she's going to start there and she's going to do that.
Right.
And then one day she might look back and go, I can't believe that I did that, but it meant something to me at that time. They might start to move into helping human beings and doing other things, but to allow them to indulge in that and to know that they are making a difference with those pigs. I mean, some people just love animals and that's it. It doesn't matter.
My other daughter walks the dogs at the shelters, and goes pets the cats. Like, everybody has their own, you're right, place that we started. And I think it's funny because even if you watch probably your philanthropic journey, do you still give to a lot of the same organizations you gave to back then?
I do. I'd say it's a little bit of the cobbler's kids don't have any shoes with me. I give to organizations historically that have been the academic, where I've gotten my degree and I feel a loyalty to that. But I also realize for myself that I need to also think about, like, what am I not giving to that I need to?
Yeah.
I to take and do the same exercise with myself and say, where would I give if I could? Now, there is something that I think about, and I actually want to talk to my own 2 boys about it.
And how old are your kids?
My kids are 26 and 25.
Okay, wow. So they're older. Okay.
Yeah, they're older.
Yeah.
And but I had this thing that I thought about a long time ago, which was what's the largest amount of impact you could make with the smallest amount of money?
Okay, this is cool.
Yeah, so I was just thinking, like, what would that look like to just go on that journey and say $100, I'm making this up, like $100 creates a water station at a school. Right? Or whatever the case may be. And food is a good example of that. Or something that's like that little bit of money made a big difference. And so I just thought, wouldn't it be cool to create some sort of a fund that was the focus? So it was pretty broad as far as the topic area or the issue area, but it would be focused in the sense of looking at, like, again, the lowest hanging fruit.
Yeah. Well, and then, so what is the message then you give to financial advisors?
Well, I always try to start with...
Do you try to teach them everything about the philanthropic industry all at one time?
I don't. I am sensitive to the fact that they can't know everything.
Right.
I used to think like that. I used to think you gotta learn all this stuff.
Right.
I was a financial advisor. I didn't know any of this stuff. You need to know this stuff. It's going to be great. And then I realized they got just too many things on their plate. The best I can hope for is that they know when to pull somebody like me in.
Correct.
And then if that can happen, or they know that they have outside resources to pull in, great. I want them to have enough of a working knowledge to be able to say, I know when the situation presents itself. Maybe I know questions to ask the client and so on. But then I realized they're going to have to say, hey, I think it's like the book, Who Not How. Like you find the person that can do it, and you don't have to do it, but you know that somebody else can come in, or maybe there's a team of people that can come in and do it. Yeah. That's the best I can hope for at this point with financial advisors.
Yeah.
But I feel like a lot of them are of the mindset of, well, I don't know how to say it, or I don't really know the products very well, or my clients are not that philanthropic, and whatever their excuse is. And I just point back to $600 billion is donated in this country. You've got to realize that you're either not seeing it, but chances are your clients are doing something. They're giving their time, their talent, their treasure. They're giving something away, and you haven't tapped into that. Shame on you. You should be pulling that out. Even in the first meeting, you should be talking about that somehow. Yeah, talking about that, because that will cement your relationship with those people, and they will realize that if we do want to go and talk about philanthropy, we have a safe space to do it, instead of feeling like, oh, I can't give to philanthropy. I have to give it all to my kids, or I have to. Right. Not necessarily. You can do both. You can give to your kids and give to philanthropy. And what a great legacy for your kids to see, hey, we lived pretty good lives. We were financially sound, and we actually gave a little bit of that back to other people in different ways. To give permission to the next generation to be able to do that, that's a great legacy and a great message, instead of, oh, I need it all for myself at all times, and I don't have any room for helping others. I think it's a terrible societal message.
Absolutely, right? Like, if you actually think about it like that, that is a terrible societal, like, I don't think I've broken it down like that. And my last question for you before we have to wrap this up is, I saw upcoming book. Yeah. What is that about?
So so when you're teaching as much as you are, whether it's financial services or philanthropic services, sometimes you just get to this point, or I speak for myself, like I speak to this, I get to this point where I go, I've got to start memorializing this in either a book form or a PowerPoint or something. Like, I need to start teaching this. And part of it for me is, if I don't see it, I don't know if you've ever heard the phrase, something like write the book you want to read, or sing, or write the song you want to hear. Yeah, exactly. So that's what I'll do. I'll say, I'm not interested necessarily in duplicating what other people are doing. If they've done it, fine. If I don't see it, then I feel the need to sort of write it. So this book is more of an elemental 101 for nonprofits on how to raise money, with a few different flourishes that they might not see otherwise. Okay. Like we talked about professional advisor engagement and getting to know your professional advisors in your community, and non-cash assets. I don't see a lot of that in sort of the 101s for how nonprofits can raise money. Yeah. And I think what I'm doing also is I'm just saying, I feel like these things have worked. Yeah. And it's not too vague in the sense of, I don't want people to read it and go, like, yeah, it was all right. Yeah. I mean, it gave me kind of the high-level pointers, but I like to think that I'm giving them sort of the high-level pointers, but also down to the tactics of do these things and try this. And the only thing that I didn't do in the book is I didn't add a lot of anecdotes, and that's what was told to me by somebody who had edited the book. They said, this is a good book for a niche audience of people who are looking to raise money, and that's a pretty big niche audience these days. but then it was also like, okay, now, how do you make it more reader friendly? Tell a story or two about how these things worked. And I was thinking, that's the easy part. I could tell a ton of stories.
Yeah.
I was like, the fundamentals of the book, that's the hard part for me.
Yeah.
So now I'm about to add those flourishes and those extra stories. And then after that, I think it'll be more enjoyable and readable. And I've always had that mentality since I heard that advice. When I read a book, I say, it's the stories that actually make it really special along the way. They justify and supplement the point that has been trying to be. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Rick, thank you so much for being on the podcast. I truly appreciate it. I love all that you're doing. It's so inspiring. And thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Yeah. Find Inspired Changemakers on Instagram, YouTube, and LinkedIn, and comment on all the awesome things you are doing to make this world a better place. Don't forget to subscribe.